Ancient civilizations possessed technologies that seem impossible for their time. This video explores 25 incredible inventions and artifacts that should not exist according to our standard history books. You will discover a hidden legacy of human ingenuity that redefines our entire timeline. How did a 2,000-year-old device predict celestial events with clockwork precision? And why did a medieval sword contain microscopic carbon structures unknown to modern science until recently? What forgotten piece of ancient knowledge makes you question everything you thought you knew about the past recovered from the depths of a Roman-era shipwreck? The Antikythera Mechanism is a corroded bronze puzzle that has baffled researchers for over a century. When you look at its fragmented remains, you see a lump of green metal, but X-ray analysis reveals something extraordinary inside. This was not a simple timekeeping device. It was an intricate assembly of at least 30 interlocking bronze gears, housed in a wooden case no larger than a shoebox. By turning a hand crank on the side, the user could set the machine in motion, and its dials and pointers would display the movements of the sun, the moon, and the known planets. It could predict lunar and solar eclipses with remarkable accuracy, and even tracked the 4-year cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. The true marvel lies in the engineering. One specific gear with 223 precisely machined teeth perfectly models the irregular orbit of the moon, a complexity we would not see in clockwork again until the 18th century in Europe. How could a civilization from 2,000 years ago possess the mathematical knowledge and manufacturing skill to create such a sophisticated analog computer? Its very existence suggests a hidden lineage of scientific thought, a school of mechanics and astronomy that was lost to the world for millennia when this single device sank beneath the waves. What other revolutionary ideas went down with that ship, their secrets still waiting on the ocean floor? While the Antikythera Mechanism represents a pinnacle of mechanical genius, another discovery from the ancient world hints at a completely different kind of power. In the dusty ruins of a Parthian village just outside modern Baghdad, an unassuming clay pot was unearthed. It did not look like much at first, just a 13-centimeter tall jar sealed with asphalt. But inside, archaeologists found a carefully arranged secret. A copper cylinder housed an iron rod, completely isolated from the pot itself by that asphalt plug. To any modern engineer, the arrangement is instantly recognizable. This was the core component of a simple battery. If this jar were filled with an acidic liquid, something as common as vinegar or grape juice, a chemical reaction would occur. The acidic electrolyte would allow electrons to flow from the iron rod to the copper cylinder, generating a small but consistent electric current, perhaps just 1 or 2 volts. That is enough to cause a faint tingle on the tongue or to create a visible spark. Dating from anywhere between 250 years before the Common Era and 224 years after, this object predates the official invention of the battery by Alessandro Volta in the 19th century by well over a millennium. So what was its purpose? The most compelling theory suggests it was used for electroplating, the process of depositing a thin layer of one metal onto another. A goldsmith could have used a series of these jars to generate enough current to transfer a shimmering coat of gold or silver onto a less valuable metal object, creating beautiful gilded jewelry. Other theories propose its use in medical therapy, providing a mild shock, or even in religious ceremonies to create a mysterious, seemingly magical effect for temple rituals. The debate over its exact use continues, but the artifact itself is undeniable. Its very existence forces us to ask a profound question. Were the people of ancient Mesopotamia not just aware of electricity, but were they actively experimenting with it and finding practical applications for it in their daily lives? This single clay jar challenges the entire timeline of electrical discovery, suggesting that the spark of scientific curiosity has been igniting and reigniting throughout human history, often being lost for centuries before being found again. From the silent potential of stored electricity, we move to the ringing clash of forged metal. The legendary swords of Damascus were not merely tools of war, they were living proof of an art form pushed to its absolute limit. Forged in the Middle East from the 3rd to the 17th centuries, these blades possessed an almost mythical reputation. Warriors spoke of their ability to slice through a floating silk scarf, another soldier's sword, or even a rock, all without chipping or losing their razor-sharp edge. They were flexible yet unbelievably hard, and they were marked by a beautiful, watery pattern shimmering across the steel, a signature no forger could replicate. This metal was known as Wootz steel, a unique material that began its life as raw ingots from India. The secret was not just in the raw material, but in a transformative and now lost manufacturing process. The blacksmiths of old would heat, hammer, and cool the steel in a very specific and tightly controlled manner. They worked by feel and by sight, guided by generations of accumulated knowledge, completely unaware of the microscopic revolution they were orchestrating within the metal itself. Modern scientists, using electron microscopes, finally unlocked the secret centuries after the last true Damascus sword was made. They discovered that the perfect process of heating and slow cooling caused carbon atoms to arrange themselves into incredibly strong, microscopic tubes. These are carbon nanotubes, the same cutting-edge material science we celebrate today for its potential in everything from electronics to super-strong composites. These ancient smiths, without any understanding of nanotechnology, were consistently producing it within their forges. They had achieved through empirical mastery what we have only recently accomplished with advanced instrumentation. The loss of this technique is a haunting reminder of how fragile knowledge can be. When the last master smith died without passing on his craft, the world lost not just a recipe for a great sword, but a profound understanding of materials that we are still struggling to fully reverse engineer today. From the masterful manipulation of solid steel, we turn to a weapon that defied the very nature of fire itself. Greek fire was not merely a tool of war, it was a psychological terror unleashed upon the seas. Imagine the sheer horror of a naval crew in the 7th century, watching as an enemy ship deployed a stream of liquid flame that clung to the water, spreading and burning with an intense heat that water could not quench. This was the Byzantine Empire's ultimate secret weapon, a technological advantage so profound it secured their naval dominance for centuries. Its exact formula was a state secret of the highest order, known only to a select few, perhaps even the emperor and a single family of chemists. The substance was reportedly a thick, sticky liquid, projected from bronze tubes mounted on the prows of their warships. Siphons would pump the mixture, which was then ignited as it spewed forth, creating a roaring jet of fire that could engulf an enemy vessel in moments. Some accounts even describe clay grenades filled with the substance being hurled by catapults. The effect was not just destructive, it was demoralizing. Fleets would break formation and retreat at the very sight of the distinctive flames, which were said to burn even brighter when doused with water. So what was in this mythical substance? Modern theories point to a complex recipe likely involving crude petroleum or naphtha, which would give it the ability to float and burn on water, mixed with resins or pitch to make it sticky, and possibly even quicklime, a compound that reacts violently with water, generating immense heat and potentially reigniting the flames. This was not a simple incendiary, It was a sophisticated chemical weapon born from a deep, practical understanding of chemistry. The creators of Greek fire were not just soldiers, they were alchemists who had moved beyond the dream of turning lead into gold and had instead mastered the terrifying properties of the natural world. Their knowledge was so closely guarded that when the Byzantine Empire finally fell, the formula vanished from history entirely. We can only speculate on the full extent of their chemical expertise, a branch of ancient science that was so potent, so dangerous, its secrets were ultimately lost to the flames they created. The terrifying power of Greek fire could reduce a fleet to ashes, yet its secrets proved as fleeting as its flames. In stark contrast, another ancient technology achieved immortality not through destruction, but through an almost impossible resilience. The Romans built to last, their aqueducts still stride across European landscapes, and the Dome of the Pantheon in Rome remains the world's largest unreinforced concrete dome, a title it has held for nearly 2,000 years. Modern concrete, the material that shapes our cities, often shows signs of decay within 50 years, especially when exposed to seawater. So how have these Roman structures defied the elements for 2 full millennia? The answer lies not in a single ingredient, but in a brilliant chemical recipe. Roman concrete was a special mix. They combined volcanic ash, known as pozzolana, with lime and chunks of rock. This was not just a simple paste to hold stones together. It was an engineered material with a secret ability. When modern scientists examined cores from ancient Roman seawalls, they made a startling discovery. Seawater, which rapidly corrodes our modern concrete, was actually performing a miracle of maintenance on the Roman version. As salt water seeped into the microscopic cracks that naturally form over time, it reacted with the volcanic ash and lime. This chemical interaction prompted the growth of new, interlocking crystals that filled the fissures from the inside out. The concrete was literally healing itself. This self-repairing property explains why Roman piers and breakwaters have endured 2,000 years of pounding waves, while our own constructions require constant and costly repairs. The Romans possessed a profound, almost intuitive grasp of material science. They understood that the right combination of natural elements could create a substance that fought back against decay. Their formula was so effective that it allowed their architecture to withstand not just the slow grind of erosion, but the violent shocks of earthquakes. The longevity of their work forces us to confront a difficult question. Why did such a superior, more sustainable building technique vanish for centuries, only to be rediscovered in our own labs? Perhaps the true lesson of Roman concrete is not just about the strength of their materials, but about the fragility of our own collective memory and the sobering reality that even the most brilliant knowledge can be buried by the sands of time. High on the dry plateaus of southern Peru, a sprawling canvas of pale rock and dark desert varnish holds one of archaeology's greatest visual puzzles. The Nazca Lines are not merely drawings, they are colossal geoglyphs etched into the earth itself. Creatures like a hummingbird with wings outstretched, a massive spider, and a winding monkey stretch across the arid plains, some over 1,200 feet long. To stand at ground level is to see only shallow grooves and displaced stones, but from the vantage point of the sky, these lines coalesce into breathtakingly precise figures. This is the core of the mystery, created by the Nazca culture between 500 years before the Common Era and 500 years after. These designs were made centuries before human flight was possible. How could a people who never saw their work from above create art that only makes sense from the air? The most accepted theories point to remarkable ingenuity with simple tools. The artists likely began with small-scale models, carefully plotting the key points of their design. Using a system of ropes and stakes anchored to a central point, they could have scaled up the drawings, painstakingly clearing the dark surface stones to reveal the lighter soil beneath. This method, while laborious, is technically feasible, yet the sheer scale and perfect proportions of the figures defy simple explanation. The straight lines run for miles with barely a deviation, and the curves of the animal glyphs are fluid and exact. This suggests the Nazca possessed a sophisticated grasp of geometry and spatial mathematics that allowed them to translate a small sketch into a landscape-sized masterpiece without a single error visible from above. Many researchers believe this was more than art. It was a form of sacred astronomy or a giant celestial calendar. Certain lines align perfectly with solstice sunsets, while some of the animal figures may have represented constellations important to their cosmology. The flat, barren desert became a massive ritual space where the very act of walking the lines or performing ceremonies within them connected the people to the heavens. The precision required for such alignments again points to a deep, empirical knowledge of the stars and their movements across the sky. Were these lines a prayer written on the earth, so large that only the gods could read them? The enduring enigma of the Nazca Lines challenges our understanding of ancient perception. It forces us to consider that a civilization can achieve breathtaking accuracy and scale, not through advanced technology as we know it, but through a profound, collective understanding of their environment, a patient mastery of simple tools, and a vision so vast it could only be captured on the land itself. Rising over 23 feet in the humid air of India, a pillar of iron has defied nature for more than 1,600 years. The Iron Pillar of Delhi, forged in the 4th century, shows no signs of the deep rust that should have consumed it centuries ago. It is a silent, dark sentinel of a lost metallurgical art. This is not a simple post of metal, but a massive, single piece of high-purity wrought iron, weighing over 6 tons. For it to survive 16 centuries of monsoons and intense heat without crumbling into flakes is a feat that modern industry, with all its knowledge of anti-corrosion coatings, would struggle to replicate. The secret was not a magical ingredient, but a brilliant accident of composition and craftsmanship. Ancient Indian metalworkers used a particular type of iron ore that was rich in phosphorus, while being very low in sulfur and manganese. This high phosphorus content was the key, as the metal was painstakingly forged, hammered by hand into its final form. This specific chemical mix, combined with the heat of the process, prompted the formation of an extraordinary protective shield. A thin, invisible film, just 1/50th of a millimeter thick, slowly developed on the surface. Scientists have identified this layer as mesowite, a stable compound of iron, oxygen, and hydrogen that acts as a perfect barrier. It prevents moisture and oxygen from reaching the pure iron beneath, effectively making the pillar passively self-protecting. Modern stainless steel, by comparison, relies on the addition of chromium and complex industrial processes developed thousands of years later. The builders of this pillar achieved a similar result through an empirical, hands-on understanding of their materials. They did not know the chemistry of mesowite, but they knew their process worked. This profound mastery challenges our linear view of technological progress. How many other empirical formulas perfected over generations were lost when the artisans who held them passed from the world? The pillar does not whisper its secrets easily, but its mere presence asks us a humbling question. Have we in the modern era truly invented new sciences, or are we merely rediscovering the deep, intuitive wisdom of the ancient world? While the Iron Pillar of Delhi stands as a silent, solid testament to forgotten skill, another artifact from the past offers only a maddening whisper of secrets. In the vault of a university library lies a book that no one on earth can read. The Voynich Manuscript is a 240-page puzzle bound in vellum. filled from edge to edge with an unknown script that has resisted every attempt at translation for over a century. Its pages are a cascade of elegant, looping characters, flowing in a pattern that looks like a real language but conforms to no alphabet ever documented. This is not a simple code, it is a complete and self-consistent writing system, yet it communicates nothing we can understand. Carbon dating places its creation firmly in the early 15th century, between 1404 and 1438. But who wrote it and for what possible purpose? The mystery deepens with its illustrations. The book is lavishly decorated with bizarre, otherworldly botany. Plants with impossible root structures and leaves that do not match any known species twist across the pages. One section details intricate astronomical charts featuring unknown constellations and celestial phenomena. Another shows tiny, nude women bathing in a strange, interconnected system of green, fluid-filled tubes, a diagram that seems to suggest a biological or alchemical process. The consistency of the script and the sheer effort involved in its creation rule out the theory of an elaborate hoax. This was a work of immense dedication, likely requiring years to complete. The author believed they were recording something profoundly important. Some researchers propose it is a pharmacopoeia of lost herbal knowledge, its strange plants representing a forgotten branch of medieval medicine. Others see it as a complex alchemical text, where the diagrams are symbolic representations of spiritual transformation rather than literal instructions. The most tantalizing clue lies in the structure of the text itself. Statistical analysis reveals that the word patterns possess a complexity similar to natural languages, with the script following distinct grammatical rules. This is not random gibberish, it is a system. Yet, without a Rosetta Stone, without a single parallel text to provide a key, its message remains locked away. The Voynich Manuscript is a ghost in the history of ideas. It represents a thread of knowledge, a school of thought, that was either so secretive or so isolated that it vanished without a trace, leaving behind only this beautiful, impenetrable artifact. It challenges the very foundations of historical scholarship, forcing us to ask what entire worlds of understanding might have been lost, their existence hinted at only by a single, unreadable book. Buried within a tomb at Saqqara, a small wooden artifact waits silently. Known as the Saqqara Bird, this object carved from sycamore wood around 200 years before the Common Era looks startlingly out of place. It is not a carving of a god or a sacred animal, but something that appears distinctly technological. With its sleek, angled wings and a distinct vertical tail fin that looks nothing like a bird's tail, its form is eerily familiar to the modern eye. It resembles a miniature glider or perhaps even an early model of an airplane. The immediate assumption might be that it was a ceremonial object, a child's toy, or a stylized bird carving. Yet this simple explanation begins to fray under closer scrutiny. When modern aeronautical engineers constructed a scaled-up, weighted model of the artifact for testing, they discovered something remarkable. The Saqqara Bird did not just look like an aircraft, it performed like one. The model demonstrated excellent aerodynamic properties, capable of gliding for considerable distances through the air when thrown, with no additional power. Its wings provided lift, and that distinctive tail fin provided crucial stability, preventing it from spinning out of control. This was not a random shape, it was a design that worked. So what does this mean? Was it merely a clever toy inspired by watching birds soar on thermal currents, a happy accident of artistic design, or does it hint at something far more ambitious? Could this small wooden object be a model of a much larger, working glider, a craft that was actually built and tested. The knowledge of aerodynamics required to create such an efficient design is not intuitive. It suggests a process of observation, experimentation, and a deep understanding of principles that would not be formally defined for another 2,000 years. The Egyptians were master engineers and acute observers of nature. Is it so difficult to believe that their brilliant minds, which calculated the precise angles of pyramids and tracked the complex motions of planets, might have also turned their gaze to the sky with a more practical ambition? The Saqqara Bird does not offer proof of ancient flight, but it does present a tantalizing possibility. It forces us to wonder if the dream of soaring like a bird was being pursued in the workshops of ancient Egypt, a dream whose physical evidence has long since crumbled to dust, leaving behind only this cryptic wooden clue. Deep within the shadowy realms of private collections and museum vaults, objects of impossible clarity stare out with hollow eyes. The crystal skulls are life-sized carvings, meticulously shaped from single blocks of pristine quartz or amethyst, their surfaces polished to a flawless, glass-like finish. For decades, they were presented as relics of lost Mesoamerican empires, artifacts from the Aztecs or Maya that supposedly held ancient, mystical powers. The legends that grew around them were compelling. They were said to be used in sacred rituals to possess healing energies or to be the stored consciousness of high priests. Their perfect symmetry and ethereal beauty made such stories easy to believe. The mystery, however, lies not in their supposed magic, but in their manufacture. How could any civilization, without the benefit of modern diamond-tipped tools and electric polishing wheels, have carved something so complex and so perfect from one of the hardest materials on Earth? Quartz crystal ranks a 7 on the Mohs scale of hardness, meaning it can only be worked by substances harder than itself, like diamond or corundum. To carve a solid block into such a delicate, anatomically precise form without causing fractures or visible tool marks would require not just skill, but a technology that seems to belong to a different era entirely. The smooth, rounded cranium, the subtle cheekbones, and the perfectly formed teeth appear to be the work of a master lapidary artist with tools far beyond simple chisels and sand. This is where the romantic narrative meets modern science. In recent years, detailed analysis using high-powered electron microscopes has revealed a different story. The most famous skulls, like the well-known Mitchell-Hedges skull, show evidence of microscopic machining marks consistent with 20th century rotary tools. They are almost certainly elaborate, if masterful, hoaxes created in the 19th century, when fascination with the occult and ancient cultures was at its peak. Yet, even this revelation does not completely dissolve the enigma. The question simply shifts. If these are fakes, who possessed the astonishing skill to create them over a century ago, and for what purpose? The craftsmanship itself remains a marvel. To have produced such objects without leaving the obvious scars of their creation is a technological feat in its own right, a testament to a different kind of lost art, the art of the master forger. The crystal skulls, whether ancient artifacts or brilliant deceptions, ultimately serve as a powerful mirror. They reflect our own deep desire to find magic in the past, to believe that earlier civilizations possessed secrets we have yet to rediscover. They challenge us to separate the allure of a good story from the hard evidence of science, reminding us that sometimes the greatest mystery is not the object itself, but our unending fascination with it. The enigma of the Saqqara Bird challenges our understanding of ancient ambition, but another artifact suggests that early explorers may have mapped the entire world with impossible precision. In 1513, an Ottoman admiral and cartographer named Piri Reis compiled a world map that has confounded historians ever since. drawn on gazelle skin. This fragmentary chart depicts the coastlines of South America and Western Africa with startling accuracy. Yet its most baffling feature lies far to the south. The map appears to show a landmass where Antarctica should be, a continent that would not be officially discovered for another 300 years. Even more incredibly, the coastline of this southern land is rendered with details that seem to match the subglacial topography of Antarctica, a landscape that has been buried under miles of ice for thousands of years. How could a 16th century navigator have known this? Piri Reis himself wrote notes on the map, explaining that he had used source charts dating back to the time of Alexander the Great, including maps that were among the 20 lost from the legendary Library of Alexandria. This suggests he was copying from far older documents, created by a seafaring civilization with a global understanding that should not have existed in antiquity. The map's accuracy in plotting longitude, a navigational problem that was not reliably solved until the 18th century, points to a sophisticated knowledge of spherical trigonometry. Some researchers argue that the Antarctic portion is actually a misrepresentation of the southern coast of South America, a known phenomenon in early cartography. But the controversy forces a difficult question. Could an advanced prehistoric culture have mapped the world during a warm period when the Antarctic coastline was free of ice? And could fragments of their knowledge have survived through copies and copies, only to end up in the hands of an Ottoman admiral? Whether the map truly shows an ice-free Antarctica or not, its mere existence stands as a powerful testament to lost cartographic science. It hints at a forgotten age of exploration, when ancient mariners may have sailed across oceans with a confidence and a comprehension of the planet that we never knew they possessed. Buried inside a seemingly ordinary lump of rock lies an artifact that defies every conventional timeline. In February 1961, 3 gem hunters were searching for geodes near Olancha, California, when they cracked open what they thought was a simple stone nodule. Inside, they did not find the expected crystal cavity. Instead, they discovered a hard ceramic cylinder with a 2mm metal core, all encased within a ring of what appeared to be corroded copper. To any observer from the 20th century, the object was unmistakable. It looked exactly like a spark plug from a modern internal combustion engine. The immediate assumption was that they had found a piece of recent machinery, perhaps from an old vehicle that had become lodged in the earth. The mystery, however, was in the rock itself. This was not a simple lump of dirt. The object was completely encased within a hard, layered concretion, a type of geological formation that typically takes immense spans of time to develop. When the find was initially investigated, a geologist examined the crust and suggested it could be at least 500,000 years old. This single assessment sent shockwaves through the small community of anomalous artifact researchers. How could a manufactured object, a piece of technology that mirrored a 1920s-era champion spark plug, be sealed inside a stone that formed before modern humans even walked the earth? The most common and accepted explanation is that this was indeed a modern spark plug that became embedded in a relatively fast-forming concretion. The mineral-rich waters of the area can sometimes cement objects into rock-like shells in a matter of decades, not millennia. The original geologist's age estimate, critics argue, was simply a mistake. Yet, the artifact's defenders point to the complexity of the object itself. The inner ceramic is exceptionally hard and shows no signs of the porcelain used in common spark plugs, and the metal core is unlike standard alloys. This has led to alternative, more speculative theories. Could it be a relic from a highly advanced prehistoric human civilization, one that achieved an industrial level of technology only to vanish without a trace? Or, as some have dared to suggest, is it a piece of machinery left behind by ancient extraterrestrial visitors, a fragment of an otherworldly engine that fell to Earth eons ago? The true power of the Coso Artifact is not that it provides answers, but that it forces us to ask better questions. It challenges the infallibility of our dating methods and highlights how a single anomalous discovery can shatter a neatly constructed historical narrative. It stands as a permanent, rocky question mark, urging us to remain humble, to question our assumptions, and to always consider the possibility that the past was far more complex and far more mysterious than we have ever allowed ourselves to believe. Deep within the stone corridors of the Hathor Temple at Dendera, a series of carvings from around 50 years before the Common Era present a puzzle that seems to leap across centuries. On the walls you find not just gods and hieroglyphs, but something that looks strangely out of time. These reliefs show large, elongated objects reminiscent of glass bulbs. Inside each bulb, a snake-like form stretches from one end to the other, a shape we would instantly recognize as a filament. This central element is held by a pillar, which some interpret as an insulator, and a cable-like tube runs from the base of the bulb to a box, upon which a priest-like figure appears to be standing. The entire tableau looks to a modern eye uncannily like a functioning electric light bulb. The mainstream and most accepted explanation from Egyptology is that these are symbolic representations. The bulb could be the womb of the goddess Nut, from which the sun god is born each day, and the snake is a symbol of fertility and cosmic energy, depicted emerging from a lotus flower. It is a beautiful, spiritual interpretation that fits perfectly within the known context of Egyptian mythology. Yet, the visual parallel is so specific, so eerily precise, that it is difficult to dismiss. If we entertain the possibility, even for a moment, that these carvings are literal depictions of technology, the implications are staggering. It would suggest that the ancient Egyptian priesthood possessed and used a form of electric lighting. How could such a thing be possible? The answer might lie in a device we have already encountered. Imagine if the Baghdad Battery, or a larger, more powerful version of it, was connected to a sealed glass vessel. Inside, a thin metal filament could be heated to incandescence by the electrical current, producing a steady, brilliant light. Such a system would explain the need for the cable and the box, which could represent the power source and the apparatus for controlling the current. This technology would have been a profound secret, known only to the highest initiates of the temple. It would have allowed them to create miraculous effects, illuminating dark inner sanctums with a seemingly divine, flicker-free light to awe worshippers and consolidate their power. Of course, no physical remains of such ancient light bulbs have ever been found, which is the strongest argument against this theory. Glass and metal are fragile, and such prized technology would have been rare, carefully guarded, and likely recycled or hidden away. The Dendera reliefs do not offer proof, but they do present a powerful question. Were the ancient Egyptians simply masters of spiritual allegory, or were they also practical engineers who encoded their most advanced knowledge within their sacred art, hiding the blueprints for revolutionary technology in plain sight, waiting for a future civilization that would finally understand what it was looking at? Scattered across the lush river deltas of Costa Rica, hundreds of massive stone spheres lie as if abandoned in some colossal, forgotten game. Ranging from the size of a melon to colossal orbs over 8 feet in diameter and weighing more than 15 tons, these perfectly shaped balls of gabbro and limestone are a monument to an obsession with precision. Created by the Dickwis culture between 300 and 1500 years after the Common Era, their spherical perfection is not a trick of the eye. Modern measurements confirm their surfaces are nearly flawless, with deviations of less than a few millimeters across their entire circumference. How did a society without iron tools, without the wheel, and without modern mathematics achieve such geometric perfection on a monumental scale? The process likely began with finding a suitable boulder. The artisans would have first heated the stone with fire, then rapidly cooled it with water, causing the outer layer to crack and flake away. Using hammerstones made of equally hard rock, they would have painstakingly pecked and ground the sphere into shape, constantly checking its form. Some researchers suggest they may have used sand or abrasives on ropes to slowly polish the surface, working for generations on the largest examples. The true logistical nightmare, however, was movement. How do you transport a 16-ton stone ball through dense jungle and across rivers? The answer remains largely speculative, but it would have required an immense coordinated effort, perhaps using log rollers, levers, and rope systems powered by hundreds of people. This was not a casual undertaking. It was a society-wide project demanding extraordinary organization and a shared purpose. But what was that purpose? Were these spheres celestial markers, arranged to point to solstices or important stars, creating a giant observatory under the open sky? Could they have been symbols of power and status, with the largest spheres denoting the most important chiefs or families, their perfect shape representing cosmic unity or political authority? Some were found arranged in precise geometric patterns, lines and triangles, suggesting they were part of ceremonial centers or astronomical alignments. Their meaning is lost to us, buried with the culture that created them. The spheres force us to reconsider the capabilities of pre-Columbian societies. This was not a people merely surviving, but one investing immense resources into creating objects of pure, abstract form. The stone spheres are a silent testament to a different kind of intelligence, one that combined a profound understanding of geometry and physics with a spiritual or social vision we can no longer decipher. They are a permanent puzzle carved in stone, asking us what other grand ambitions of ancient America have simply vanished back into the jungle. The perfect spheres of Costa Rica represent a physical mystery we can touch and measure, but some of the greatest enigmas of the ancient world are etched onto flat surfaces, carrying messages we can no longer understand. In the labyrinthine ruins of the Minoan Palace of Phaistos on the island of Crete, an Italian archaeologist made a discovery in 1908 that was as beautiful as it was baffling. He unearthed a small, fired clay disc about 6 inches in diameter, and unlike any other artifact ever found, both of its faces are covered with a continuous spiral of strange, pictographic symbols, pressed neatly into the clay before it was baked hard. There are 45 distinct signs, ranging from human heads and birds to shields and flowers, all arranged in groups that seem to form words. This is the Phaistos Disc, and its 4,000-year-old message has resisted every attempt at translation for over a century. The script is unique, appearing nowhere else in the world, a language isolate from a civilization that vanished into myth. But the true revolution of the Phaistos Disc is not just in its undeciphered text, but in the very method of its creation. Each symbol was not carved by hand. They were stamped into the soft clay using individual, pre-formed seals, a technique that amounts to a form of movable type printing. This means that over 3,000 years before Johannes Gutenberg invented his printing press in Europe, a Minoan artisan had conceived of the same fundamental idea. They had created a set of reusable type, each stamp bearing a specific symbol, which could be arranged in any order and pressed into clay to produce a standardized document. Imagine the implications. This was not merely a piece of art, it was a tool for information technology. The disc itself might have been a royal decree, a religious hymn, or an inventory list. The use of stamps suggests a desire for consistency and repetition, the hallmarks of an administrative system. If this technology had been adopted and scaled up, It could have revolutionized record-keeping and communication across the Minoan world, spreading literature, laws, and knowledge with an efficiency previously unimaginable in the Bronze Age. Yet it appears to have been a flash of genius that was never repeated. No other stamped documents have been found, and the script itself died with the civilization that created it. So why did this brilliant innovation vanish without a trace? Was the disc a prototype, an experimental technology that was abandoned before it could catch on? Or was its knowledge so specialized, so tightly held by a small group of scribes or priests, that when their palace centers were destroyed, the secret of the stamps died with them? The Phaistos Disc is a haunting reminder that an idea can be born centuries, even millennia, before its time. It stands as a single, silent witness to a road not taken in the history of human communication, a lost revolution whose potential we can only now, with the benefit of hindsight, begin to measure. Standing on a remote volcanic island in the vast Pacific, the silent Moai present a logistical nightmare wrapped in stone. Carved by the Rapa Nui people between 1250 and 1500, these colossal figures are not just art, they are an immense physical challenge made manifest. Some stand over 30 feet tall and weigh more than 80 tons, the equivalent of a fully loaded military tank. Each one was meticulously carved from compressed volcanic ash at a single quarry using only stone hand tools, a process of incredible patience and skill in itself. But the true, almost unbelievable feat was moving them. The island offered no wheels, no draft animals, and no metal. How do you transport an 80-ton block of stone for miles across rugged, hilly terrain to its final coastal altar? For decades, the dominant theory involved wooden sledges and log rollers, with armies of people pulling the statues along a path of lubricated timber. But recent experiments have revealed a more dynamic and strangely lifelike possibility. What if the Moai were made to walk? This theory suggests that the islanders used a sophisticated system of ropes. Teams would anchor ropes at the statue's head and base, rocking the massive figure from side to side, coaxing it forward with each rhythmic tilt. From a distance, it would have looked as if the giant stone heads were marching themselves across the landscape, a powerful and spiritual spectacle. This walking method is not only plausible, it is efficient, requiring far fewer people and resources than the sledge theory. It points to a profound, intuitive understanding of physics, of leverage and center of gravity, mastered through generations of trial and error. The sheer coordination required speaks of a highly organized and motivated society, one capable of uniting for a common, monumental goal. These were not primitive people struggling to survive, but a complex culture with the engineering knowledge and social structure to literally move mountains, or at least to make their gods walk. The Moai are more than silent sentinels. They are the ultimate symbol of human cooperation and ingenuity, a testament to what a community can achieve when every hand pulls on the same rope. Long before the first pharaoh ruled Egypt and millennia prior to the rise of Sumer, a hill in southeastern Turkey was being transformed into something impossible. Göbekli Tepe is a sprawling complex of stone circles, its T-shaped pillars towering over 16 feet tall and weighing many tons. These are not rough monoliths, but smoothed, elegantly shaped columns, each one carved with a menagerie of wild animals. Vultures, scorpions, foxes, and lions are rendered in stunning detail, a frozen bestiary from a forgotten world. The sheer scale is staggering, but the date is what shatters our understanding. This site was actively built around 9,600 years before the Common Era. That places its construction a full 6,000 years before Stonehenge and a staggering 7,000 years before the Great Pyramid of Giza. According to the standard history of humanity, this should not exist. This was the work of hunter-gatherers, people who supposedly lived in small, nomadic bands, focused solely on day-to-day survival. They had not yet invented pottery, much less metal tools. They had not yet domesticated plants or animals to create a stable food supply. So how did they achieve this architectural marvel, and more importantly, why? The traditional narrative has always been clear. First, humans discovered agriculture. Farming created surplus food, which allowed for larger, settled populations. Those populations then developed social hierarchies, specialized labor, and complex religion, which in turn led to the building of great temples and monuments. Göbekli Tepe turns this entire sequence on its head. Here, the temple came first. The evidence suggests that bands of hunter-gatherers were drawn to this site from across the region, cooperating on a scale we never thought possible for their time. They were not building because they had a food surplus. They were creating a social and religious center that may have been the very catalyst that eventually led them to develop agriculture. The organization required is mind-boggling. Quarrying these colossal pillars from solid bedrock required advanced stone-working knowledge. Transporting them, likely using rollers and ropes made from plant fibers, would have needed hundreds of coordinated people. Raising them into precise circular formations demanded a sophisticated understanding of engineering and geometry. This was not a casual project. It was a society-wide, multi-generational undertaking driven by a shared, powerful belief system. The intricate carvings are not mere decoration. They are a complex symbolic language, proof of a rich spiritual world, and a capacity for abstract thought that we never knew our Paleolithic ancestors possessed. Göbekli Tepe forces a profound and humbling revision of our past. It suggests that the human impulse to build monuments, to create art, and to seek the divine is not a product of civilization, but its very cause. What other foundations of our history are waiting to be unearthed, ready to tell a story we never expected to hear? High in the Andes, the stones of the Inca do not simply rest on one another, they embrace. At sites like Sacsayhuaman, you find walls composed of colossal, irregularly shaped blocks, some weighing over 100 tons. Yet the joints between these behemoths are so impossibly tight, so flawlessly interlocked, that you cannot slide the edge of a razor blade into the seams. This is ashlar masonry perfected to an almost supernatural degree, a construction method that used no mortar whatsoever. The genius of this technique was not just in its precision, but in its dynamic response to the world around it. The Andes are one of the most seismically active regions on the planet, shaken regularly by powerful earthquakes. A rigid, mortared wall would crack and crumble under such stress, but the Inca walls were designed to dance. When the ground trembles, the stones in these perfect joints shift and settle against each other, absorbing and dispersing the energy. When the earthquake passes, they simply come to rest in a new, equally stable configuration. They are structures that breathe with the mountain itself. How did they achieve such perfection with what we assume were simple tools? The process was one of immense patience and profound skill. Stonemasons likely used harder stone hammers to pound the rough shapes from the quarries. Then, the real magic began. They would have painstakingly abraded the surfaces, rubbing one stone against another with sand and water as a grinding agent. This was a slow, generation-spanning process of trial and error, of fitting and refitting. A block would be painstakingly shaped, hauled to the wall, and placed against its neighbor. The high spots where the two stones touched would be marked with a colored dye. The block would then be lowered, and those high points would be ground down again. This cycle of test, fitting, and grinding would repeat until the contact was perfect over the entire interface. The transportation of these multi-ton stones from distant quarries up and down steep mountain valleys is a mystery in itself. Without the wheel or strong draft animals, the Inca relied on sheer human power, ingenuity, and an intimate knowledge of physics. They likely used log rollers, earthen ramps, and complex systems of ropes and levers, mobilizing entire communities to coax these giants into place. This was not just construction, it was a conversation with the very substance of the earth. The Inca understood the properties of different types of stone, how they would weather and interact over centuries. Their work reflects a deep, almost intuitive grasp of geology and physics that allowed them to create not just buildings, but permanent extensions of the landscape. In an age of steel and concrete, their silent, shifting walls stand as a timeless lesson in resilience, asking us if our own modern engineering has truly mastered the art of working with nature rather than simply forcing our will upon it. The silent resilience of Inca stonework stands in quiet defiance of the Earth's tremors, but another ancient civilization sought not just to withstand those tremors, but to announce them. In the year 132 of the Common Era, the Chinese court official and brilliant inventor Zhang Heng unveiled a device that seemed to possess a supernatural sense of perception. His seismoscope was a masterpiece of bronze artistry and hidden mechanics, a large urn adorned with 8 dragons, each poised above a corresponding bronze frog with its mouth wide open. Inside each dragon's head rested a carefully balanced metal ball. The principle was deceptively simple. When an earthquake struck, even hundreds of miles distant, the precise direction of the tremor would trigger a single dragon to release its ball. The clatter of bronze landing in the frog's mouth would not only alert the court to the quake, but would instantly indicate the compass direction from which the seismic waves had originated. The internal mechanism was a closely guarded secret, lost to history when the original device itself vanished. Modern engineers, however, have proposed ingenious reconstructions. The most plausible theory involves an inverted pendulum suspended in the center of the urn. When seismic waves arrived from a specific direction, the pendulum would swing, striking a lever that would open the jaw of just one dragon. This was not magic, it was a brilliant application of inertia, a principle we associate with Newton but which Zhang Heng understood and harnessed practically. Imagine the awe in the imperial court when, on one occasion, a dragon dropped its ball, though no one in the capital felt a thing. Skeptics dismissed it as a malfunction, until days later a messenger arrived from a province far to the west, reporting a devastating earthquake. The device had detected what human senses could not, proving its astonishing accuracy over a vast distance. This was more than a scientific curiosity. It was an early warning system of profound practical importance, allowing the Han dynasty to rapidly dispatch aid to stricken regions and demonstrating a sophisticated state-level understanding of disaster response. For over 1,500 years, the West had no equivalent. Zhang Heng's seismoscope represents a pinnacle of applied science, where elegant design met a deep, empirical understanding of the Earth's hidden forces. While the Chinese seismoscope listened for the Earth's hidden movements, the Vikings were mastering the secrets of the sky. Their legendary voyages across the treacherous North Atlantic, from Norway to Iceland and even North America, present a navigational puzzle. How did they cross thousands of miles of open ocean, far from any coastline, under the perpetually overcast skies of the north? The sagas speak of a magical tool, a solar stein or sunstone. This was not a mythical gem, but a real crystal, likely a piece of Iceland spar, a transparent calcite that possesses a remarkable optical property. When you hold such a crystal up to the sky and look through it, something extraordinary happens. The crystal polarizes light, filtering the scattered rays that penetrate the cloud cover. By rotating the stone and observing the changes in brightness and color within the crystal, a skilled user can pinpoint the exact position of the sun, even when it is completely hidden behind a solid gray overcast. The sun itself becomes an invisible compass. Experimental archaeologists have put this to the test, using replicas of these sunstones to navigate under dense cloud. The results are startlingly accurate, allowing for directional fixes within a single degree of the sun's true location. This was not magic, but a brilliant, practical application of physics. The Vikings were not just fearless warriors, they were master mariners who understood the natural world on a profound level. They learned to read the subtle language of light itself, using a simple crystal to turn an overcast day into a navigational chart. This knowledge transformed the North Atlantic from an impassable barrier into a highway for their longships. The Sunstone represents a perfect fusion of myth and hard science, a tool that let them sail by a sun they could not see, guided by principles they may not have fully understood, but which they mastered through generations of observation and daring. It challenges our image of the Viking as a mere raider, revealing them instead as one of history's most ingenious and resourceful explorers. Heron of Alexandria gazed upon a force we would not harness for another 17 centuries. In the 1st century, this brilliant Greek engineer described a device he called an eolipile. Picture a sealed cauldron of water suspended over a fire, with 2 pipes rising from it to support a hollow metal sphere. The sphere had 2 L-shaped nozzles protruding from its sides, bent to face in opposite directions. When the water in the cauldron boiled, steam rushed up through the pipes into the sphere and shot out of the nozzles at high speed. The reactive force of these steam jets set the entire sphere spinning faster and faster until it became a whirring, hissing metal ball. This was not just a philosophical toy, it was the world's first documented steam turbine, a working demonstration of the principles that would one day power the entire industrial age. Heron had unlocked the fundamental concept of converting thermal energy into rotational motion. He understood the power of steam, and he proved it with a device of elegant, undeniable function. Yet the eolipile was never used to grind grain, pump water, or drive a vehicle. It remained a temple wonder, a fascinating novelty for the scholars of the Museum of Alexandria. The question this raises is not about capability, but about context. The ancient world had abundant slave labor, reducing the economic incentive to develop labor-saving machinery. There was no widespread concept of mass production or the kind of capitalist drive that would later fuel innovation in 18th century Britain. The intellectual framework was different too. Heron and his contemporaries saw engineering as a way to demonstrate philosophical principles and create marvels, not necessarily to transform society. The eolipile stands as a haunting what-if in the history of technology. It proves the fundamental knowledge was there, waiting. The potential for an industrial revolution existed in that spinning sphere. But without the right social, economic, and cultural conditions to nurture it, that single brilliant spark simply faded away, leaving only a hiss of steam and a profound lesson about the delicate ecosystem required for true technological transformation. Heron's steam turbine hinted at a potential the ancient world never fully embraced, but far across the ocean, another civilization was channeling its intellectual energy into a different kind of power altogether, the mastery of time itself. The Mayan calendar system was not a single device, but a breathtakingly complex intellectual machine built from mathematics and naked-eye astronomy. At its heart were 2 interlocking cycles. The Tzolk'in was a 260-day sacred round, combining 20-day names with 13 numbers, while the 365-day Hob was a rough solar year. These two wheels turned independently like interlocking gears, and only once every 52 years would a specific combination of day and month repeat. This created a societal rhythm, a cycle of expectation and renewal that governed everything from planting seasons to grand religious ceremonies. But the Maya looked far beyond this 52-year cycle. They wove these counts into a much larger framework known as the long count, a linear tally of days that began with a mythical starting point and could stretch forward for thousands, even millions, of years into the future. This was not merely a way to mark the passage of seasons. It was a profound philosophical statement that time itself was vast, measurable, and cyclical on a cosmic scale. Their calculations were staggering. They independently developed the concept of zero, a mathematical leap that eluded many other advanced cultures, and used it in a base 20 numbering system to perform the complex computations needed to track celestial bodies. From their temple observatories, priests charted the movements of Venus with an accuracy that would not be matched in Europe for centuries. They could predict solar and lunar eclipses, not through magic, but through centuries of meticulous record-keeping and pattern recognition etched into bark paper codices. The calendar dictated the optimal times to plant maize and the precise moments to appease the gods with ritual. It was the engine of their society, a fusion of science, religion, and agriculture so complete that it shaped the very consciousness of their civilization. The true marvel is that this entire intellectual edifice was built without telescopes, without clocks, and without any metal tools. It was born from the human mind observing the heavens, finding order in the cosmos, and encoding that order into a system of time so sophisticated that its legacy continues to humble us today. What does it say about a culture that could map time across millennia, all while gazing at the stars with nothing but their own eyes and an unshakable faith in the patterns of the universe? A single block of red granite carved into a needle reaching for the heavens embodies an ambition that defies its own creation. The Egyptian obelisk is more than a monument. It is a statement of power written in stone, a challenge issued by pharaohs to the gods and to time itself. These towering spires, some weighing as much as 500 tons, were quarried from a single piece of rock. The process began deep within the earth, where workers would painstakingly carve channels around the intended block, then drive in wooden wedges. They would soak these wedges with water, and as the wood expanded with a groan, it would crack the granite free from the living bedrock. This was just the beginning of an unimaginable logistical nightmare. How do you move a 500-ton stone needle, a weight equivalent to a fully loaded jumbo jet, across miles of desert to the banks of the Nile? The Egyptians used a symphony of simple machines. They would load the obelisk onto a massive wooden sledge and then pour water onto the sand in front of it, creating a slick, muddy path that reduced friction. Teams of hundreds, sometimes thousands, of laborers would then pull on thick ropes, inching the colossal load forward day by day. Upon reaching the river, the sledge was maneuvered onto a specially built, enormous barge, a vessel so large it had to be designed around the obelisk it was meant to carry. The final act was the most perilous of all, the raising. At the temple site, workers constructed a vast earthen ramp leading up to a pit filled with sand. The obelisk was carefully slid down this ramp, its base positioned just above the hole. Then, in a moment of breathtaking coordination, laborers would slowly, systematically remove the sand from the pit. As the sand level dropped grain by grain, the obelisk would tilt, pivoting on its base until it slid perfectly into its vertical position. This was not brute force, it was a meticulously calculated ballet of physics and human coordination. But these stones were more than just displays of engineering prowess. They were also precise astronomical instruments. Their four sides were often aligned with the cardinal directions, and their shadows cast by the sun could mark the solstices and equinoxes, turning the entire temple complex into a giant sundial. They connected the earthly power of the pharaoh to the eternal cycles of the sun god Ra. The gold or electrum caps that once gleamed from their peaks were not merely decorative, they were designed to catch the first and last rays of the sun, setting the very tip of the monument ablaze with light, a visible manifestation of divine connection. The obelisks stand as a perfect fusion of brute strength and celestial poetry, proving that the most enduring technologies are those that serve both the earth and the heavens. The ancient Sanskrit epics do not merely tell stories of gods and heroes, they also describe their celestial chariots in astonishing, mechanical detail. These were the Vimanas, legendary flying machines said to traverse the skies, journey between continents, and even voyage to other worlds. Within texts like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, these are not vague, magical vehicles, but are depicted with a specificity that echoes engineering manuals. Some accounts describe them as multi-level structures, powered by a heated mercury vortex engine that generated immense lift and propulsion. The sound of their engines is said to have been like a roar, and their construction involved specific metals, which scholars have since interpreted as possible alloys. One passage even warns pilots against using certain switches under bad weather conditions, a level of operational detail that feels startlingly practical. It is easy to dismiss these descriptions as pure mythology, the poetic imagination of a bygone era. But when you place them alongside artifacts like the Saqqara Bird, a different question emerges. What if these stories are not inventions, but distorted memories? Could they be the echo of a real, but now lost, school of aeronautical science? Perhaps they represent a peak of ancient experimentation with gliders, airships, or even more exotic forms of propulsion. Achievements that were so advanced for their time that they could only be explained to later generations as the divine chariots of the gods. The knowledge itself may have been lost to war, natural disaster, or simply the slow erosion of time, leaving only the grand, fantastical stories behind. The Vimana legends challenge our most fundamental assumptions about the trajectory of technology. They force us to wonder if the dream of flight was not born in the workshops of Da Vinci or the Wright brothers, but was instead a dream realized, forgotten, and then dreamed all over again, its original blueprint surviving only as myth. From the celestial chariots of ancient India, we descend to a mystery you can hold in the palm of your hand. Scattered across the lands of the former Roman Empire, from Britain to Hungary, are strange, beautiful objects that refuse to give up their secrets. These are the Roman Dodecahedra. Each one is a small, hollow bronze form, no larger than a baseball, with 12 flat pentagonal faces. Every face has a circular hole of a different diameter, and at each of the 20 corners sits a small, solid knob. Over 100 of these enigmatic items have been unearthed, all dating from the 2nd or 3rd century, and yet not a single Roman text, letter, or inventory list ever mentions them. Their design is too consistent, too deliberate to be a mere trinket. The uniformity suggests they were made according to a specific, widely understood pattern, a tool with a clear purpose that an entire society seemed to recognize, yet somehow forgot to pass down to us. So what were they for? The theories are as varied as the holes in their faces. Some propose they were elaborate candlestick holders, with a stick placed through the center and the different holes controlling the draft and flame size. Others suggest they were tools for knitting, used to create gloves of specific sizes by weaving thread through the knobs. There is an astronomical theory that they were handheld devices for calculating the optimal dates for planting winter grain by aligning the holes with the sun. Perhaps they were religious symbols used in rituals we can no longer comprehend, or simple surveyor's tools for measuring distances on a map. The frustrating beauty of the dodecahedron is that each theory fits just well enough to be plausible, yet none perfectly explains every feature of its design. Why the different-sized holes? What was the function of the knobs? If they were so common and useful, why does no Roman writer bother to describe one? This is not a mystery from a lost or remote culture, but from one of the most meticulously documented empires in history. We have their laws, their poetry, their engineering manuals, and their shopping lists. Yet these objects slip through the cracks of recorded history, silent and stubborn. They are a powerful, tangible reminder that our understanding of the past is built on fragments. For every grand aqueduct or detailed manuscript, there are countless ordinary objects, the simple tools of daily life, whose purposes died with their users. The Roman dodecahedron does not whisper of forgotten high technology, but of a more intimate loss, the fading echo of common knowledge. It asks us to consider how much of our own world, the simple gadgets and cultural touchstones we take for granted, would leave future archaeologists utterly baffled. What everyday object from your life would be an indecipherable mystery 2,000 years from now? These incredible inventions share a common, unsettling thread. Each one appears as a sudden flash of brilliance in a timeline where it simply does not belong, a technological island in a sea of what we thought we knew. The Antikythera Mechanism, the Baghdad Battery, the self-healing Roman concrete, all of them demand a radical rethinking of history itself. Our conventional narrative tells a straightforward story of human progress, a slow, linear climb from primitive tools to complex machines. But these artifacts suggest a very different reality, one of fits and starts, of peaks and devastating valleys. Civilizations may have risen to heights of scientific understanding, only to have that knowledge wiped away by a perfect storm of misfortune. A devastating war could decimate the population that held specialized skills. A prolonged drought or a volcanic winter could force a society to abandon its cities and its libraries, scattering its thinkers to the winds. A social collapse could shift priorities so dramatically that the intricate art of forging Damascus steel or mixing Greek fire was deemed irrelevant, left to fade from memory with the last aging master who practiced it. This is the concept of the lost horizon, a point in time beyond which certain knowledge cannot be recovered. It forces us to consider history not as a steady upward slope, but as a series of cycles where innovation flourishes and is then tragically forgotten. The fall of the Library of Alexandria is a poignant symbol of this, but it was likely just one of many such losses throughout the ages. Each of these anomalous objects is a message in a bottle from a lost age of genius, a fragment of a conversation we can no longer fully hear. By studying them, we do more than just satisfy our curiosity about the past. We learn a vital, humbling lesson about the fragility of our own collective knowledge. In an era where we store our most critical information in digital clouds and on fragile servers, the silent, stubborn existence of a 2,000-year-old iron pillar offers a profound warning. What ensures that our own greatest discoveries will not one day become the inexplicable artifacts of a future civilization, puzzles for their archaeologists to ponder? The true value of these ancient technologies may not be in the specific secrets they hold, but in the urgent question they pose about the permanence of human achievement. These 25 glimpses into the ancient world form a powerful mosaic of human genius. Each artifact, from the intricate gears of the Antikythera Mechanism to the self-healing Roman concrete, tells a story not of primitive struggle, but of profound capability. Our ancestors were not merely surviving, they were observing, experimenting, and innovating with the world around them. They achieved these marvels not with advanced machinery, but with an unparalleled mastery of simple tools, deep patience, and a relentless curiosity that drove them to unlock the secrets of nature. These discoveries force us to discard the simplistic timeline of a slow, linear march of progress. Instead, we see a history punctuated by brilliant peaks, where knowledge flourished in one era only to be lost for centuries in another, buried by war, disaster, or the simple passage of time. While the full purpose of the Roman dodecahedron or the encrypted message of the Voynich Manuscript may forever elude us, their very existence is a triumph. They are permanent reminders that the drive to understand, to build, and to reach beyond our immediate grasp is a fundamental part of what makes us human. This journey through forgotten technologies should leave us not with final answers, but with a renewed sense of wonder and a humbling perspective. The next time you look at an ancient ruin or a historical artifact, try to see it with fresh eyes. Ask what incredible knowledge its creators held, and what fragments of our own modern world might one day become puzzling mysteries for future generations. The past is not a closed book, but an ongoing excavation, and every new discovery has the power to rewrite everything we thought we knew. If this exploration of ancient mysteries captivated you, let us know which technology intrigued you the most in the comments below. Your thoughts and curiosity are what keep the search for knowledge alive. Thank you for watching.